So the federal government almost shut down last week, and were Republicans just using Planned Parenthood as a bargaining chip to get Democrats to accept deeper budget cuts? Or is there something else going on here? And Hannah, can you explain the situation and tell us a little bit more about the wrangling that went on Thursday and Friday?
Yes, I fear we're going to be a little bit of groupthink on this issue because there's really only one way to see it. In fact, yes, the Republicans were using funding on Planned Parenthood to hold up the budget deal. Within this, I'm going to describe there are a couple of heroes in this situation, Republicans who said, look, wait, we really care about the budget. That's what we ran on this year, and that has to be our priority, so we can't hold this up because of Planned Parenthood. It's not necessarily surprising. It's not the first time that Republicans have tried to slip in some sort of anti-abortion provision into a budget showdown. The reason that it got so much attention this year was twofold. One is because they made such a big priority of tax cuts that it's sort of surprising that you would just kind of slip in the same culture war issues, which you know are going to derail and take the focus off actual budget cutting. So number one, that's a little bit surprising and annoying.
Okay, my question for you on that is, do you think, so that's happened, do you think that the public buys it? I have no sort of barometer of how the country is reacting to the fact that the federal government almost shut down, and it is about this thing that is this writer that is total BS, basically. I mean, is it your sense that that people can see through what the Republicans are doing, or do they think, they're just trying to cut every cent, and I support that?
No, I don't think people think they're trying to cut every cent. I think people fully understand that these are culture war issues, and then whether people, support that or think it's a good idea to cut funding for Planned Parenthood is a completely different discussion. What was interesting to me about the way this played out is it was sort of routinized. It's like they were talking about abortion in the same kind of idiom and tone and mood that they were talking about budget cuts. Those two things sort of should occupy different realms of the cultural imagination, and yet they didn't. It was like, we'll hold up your funding for this if you guys give us some money on abortion, and let's compromise. Let's just let people of D.C. not have their funding for abortion as opposed to every other state. How's that? That sounds like a good deal. It's weird. Like, abortion is supposed to be an absolute. This is an issue of hypocrisy we run into all the time, and yet it somehow sort of is on the trading table along with these other kind of mundane or workaday or accounting matters. Now, I also don't want to fall into this trap because this was not a debate about abortion. Planned Parenthood does not receive any federal funding for abortion. So I just want to put that out there so we're not repeating the same mistake that everybody made.
Exactly. And also
that John Kyle is making.
Nina, tell us a little bit about that Colbert Report video that has been making the web rounds.
I just need to pause because I love the meme that it has spawned so much. Well, so John Kyle last week had said that abortions are, quote unquote, well over 90% of what Planned Parenthood does. And he was sort of swiftly, shot down on that figure.
It's about 3%.
It's about 3%, right. So actually about 90%, well over 90% of what Planned Parenthood does is not abortion.
And again, the federal government does not pay for abortions now at all. That's been true since the 70s, and the Republicans have really been successful in eliding contraception and abortion.
Yeah, or that it's saying that if you give money to an organization that gives some other money to abortions, that you are sort of indirectly, implicated. And so lots of people jumped on Kyle for that erroneous statement, and he came back and said, as I think this is from Dahlia Lithwick's piece, one of the great all-time clarifications, saying that his remark was, quote unquote, not intended to be a factual statement. And Stephen Colbert really ran with that idea.
Over 90%. That is unbelievable, in that it is not true. Because only 3% of what Planned Parenthood does is abortions. Kyle just rounded up to the nearest 90. Besides, when this 87% discrepancy was pointed out, Kyle's office immediately released the following statement to CNN.
And you know what? I just want to give it to you verbatim here. It says his remark was not intended to be a factual statement.
See? It was not intended to be a factual statement. You can't call him out for being wrong when he never intended to be right. I gotta say, that is an amazingly liberating defense. Now I can say things like, John Kyle has a vestigial tail, and it's not where you think it would be. There's a reason he never wears a tank top. Note, that was not intended to be a factual statement.
And then starting this truly fantastic Twitter meme with the hashtag not intended to be a factual statement, in which he shares all kinds of, facts about John Kyle. Let me find those in my notes. But, one of my favorites, John Kyle once ate a badger he hit with his car. Hashtag not intended to be a factual statement. For the past 10 years, John Kyle has been 2 children in a very convincing John Kyle suit. Hashtag not intended to be a factual statement. John Kyle has a shrine to Scooter from the Muppet Show. Hashtag not intended to be a factual statement. So it has spawned this sort of great internet comedy meme that I have that I continue to gain a lot of pleasure from.
Well, I feel like sort of absurdism is the only way to approach what's going on, because it just seems that nothing anyone says will deter, this group of Republicans, including Boehner and whoever, from using this to hold up sort of and sort of, Hannah, what's your sense going forward? Is there's a week extension. Are they going to drop this?
Yes, I don't think it's actually going to be held up. I don't think they're going to end up cutting funding for Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is absolutely correct. They're not treated any differently than a hospital, let's say. They are refunded for services that they provide to women. One thing that depresses me about watching this, actually 2 things. One is that last time we had a discussion similar to this about federal funding for abortion, we got a bunch of emails and also on our Facebook page from listeners from other countries saying, like, you guys are so pathetic. Like, why do you even give up on that issue? So that depressed me, that we already completely assume that there's just no way there will ever be federal funding for abortion. And the second thing is that when I listen to the representatives of Planned Parenthood talk on the radio, they basically have to back away from the position that they are a really important abortion provider, because that's something you just can't talk about or say. And that's depressing, right? They have to keep saying, we just provide health services for women, birth control for women. Now, that is primarily what they do. That's 97% of what they do. But they're also an abortion provider, in places where it's very difficult, and in a situation in which it's more difficult to be an abortion provider.
But,
and yet we're not allowed to sort of embrace them or
But what's so crazy about it, too, is that it's so not what the American public wants, that they keep saying over and over again, it's only a minority. It's 20% who said abortions should not be permitted, according to a poll that was taken by New York Times CBS News. So it's like a very small minority who doesn't want a Planned Parenthood to give abortions. I mean, I know the funding thing is different. The funding thing is different and contentious, and that Republicans and even pro-choice Republicans, many think that it shouldn't be funded by the government or anyone. But still, I mean, just the fact that it is somehow, again, sort of a dirty word is just.
Right.